Hey, everybody, and we are live with Office Hours today. Excited to have you all here with us and looking forward to sharing my thoughts on the military transition, networking, careers, everything post-military, and give you some tips you can use to kind of find your success. Before we get started today, I do want to say, I've got everybody in, Florida and Louisiana in my prayers. I'm hoping that I think it's Hurricane Helene, um, kind of gets through there quickly and does not cause too much damage. It's a little bit of a scary situation. So hope you all are ready, prepared, and safe. With that being said, I do want to recognize one of our alliance partners, Heritage Construction. And it's not a cheesy way of saying this. Heritage Construction has account manager roles. They're really project management roles. And what they do is when a storm, a weather event, something significant hits their region throughout Texas, their people go and talk to the people in the houses. They're not cold leads, they're warm leads. They do an assessment, and if there's damage that needs to be filed with insurance companies, they handle the filing of the paperwork. They will bring in the construction, repair, roofing, whatever teams to take care of the damage. They do everything for you, one-stop shop. What's exciting about this for me is they've got these account managers positions, these program managers, project manager positions that are actually going out in official vehicles that are going out there and doing the quick assessments, taking photos, talking to people, and you're really taking people that have been in a rough situation and helping them. And while you're at it, you're making great money. So our CEO, Nick, told me there was a hail event that hit his neighborhood. And I think I've told this story before, but there's 25 houses down his street, and like 2 or 3 houses went with like a family member or a friend to fix it. And 22 went to the same project manager, the same account manager that went there and knocked on the doors and said, I know there's been hail in the region. I work for this company. Here's the information. And do you want us to take a look at your roof and, take care of it? And so 22 houses got roofs replaced and everything else that was done. And one guy made quite a bucket of money over for 6 weeks worth of work. Probably more money with six weeks worth of work than most of us make an entire year. So I would tell you, if you're thinking about what's next, consider our friends at Heritage Construction. You can check it out right here at the Hire Military website, and reach out to Lucy or reach out to Amber, reach out to Livia, or even reach out on this post if you're interested, and we'll let you know. We'll connect you with their team. So now let's move on. If you are watching, I'd love for you to just tell me where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from. If you are looking for an opportunity, go ahead and drop where you're looking for it, location and what type of opportunity you're looking for. Please don't just put leadership or executive or vice president. We want to hear what you want to do. And if you're not sure, just let us know who you are and what kind of stuff you're looking for. There's a lot of people that tune in that could create opportunity for you. And, it takes a couple seconds of your time to do that. Now, let's get into the advice section. It was an entertaining and an interesting weekend on the LinkedIn side when I posted about education and how you should and should not reflect it on your LinkedIn profile. And it's really interesting to see people that you never see on any other posts come out of the woodworks to say how they disagree with me and how they hate my advice and everything else like that. And I have a couple good friends and mentors that say, you don't know you've made it till you've got haters. And so it was interesting to see that happen. But what I'm going to say is, while I disagree with the way some of them responded, I think we should all be relatively professional when we're commenting to each other. There is some validity to what some of the people said. And so what I want to share with everybody is that there's no one way to do anything transition related. There's no one piece of advice that applies equally to everyone. There's no one job that works the same way across every industry. And so when it comes to the transition, right, you have to weigh every piece of advice and figure out how it applies and if it applies to you, right? And I'll explain this in a second. What I usually will tell people is that when you see advice, regardless of the number of followers or connections or the title of the person on the giving the advice, what I want you to do is I want you to look at their background, look at their experience, and I want you to kind of assess, and this goes for everything on the internet these days. I want you to assess, where did they get the knowledge and experience to give you this advice, right? I want you to assess, what is their motivation, right? Is there a financial incentive for them to post these things? There's a lot of career coaches that post about optimization and ATS black holes, and their goal is to get people to pay them to fix it. And then there's a lot of people in education that post about getting more degrees and getting more certs, and their incentive is largely to get you to buy more education or certs, right? Or to use your TI bill. And so I want you to assess every piece of information, but ultimately you have to choose your path, right? You choose your mentors, and I'll get into your personal board of directors later. But you have to choose what advice you follow, and you have to live with the results. And so my advice was specific, and it was taken very broadly. So my advice was, I don't believe that you should necessarily post that you are pursuing degrees on your profile. And the reason I posted that is because you either have the degree or you don't. That's number one, right? So if a job requires a master's degree in accounting, or if a job requires a bachelor's of information technology, or if it requires a bachelor's in health or healthcare administration or whatever it is, and you put on there that you're pursuing that, you're not qualified if you don't have it, right? The other part of this is, if you're looking for jobs in supply and logistics, but you're pursuing a PhD or you're pursuing a master's degree in information technology, then it's going to make it hard for someone to hire you. And the reason I say this is because it's not continued education. You are pursuing degrees that are different than the jobs you're applying for, or that are senior to the jobs that you're applying for. And so if I'm hiring you for a job that requires a bachelor's or master's degree, and you say you're pursuing your PhD, the general expectation is that you are going to, when you get that PhD, either look for a job that requires a PhD, which is mostly in academia, or some of the significant consulting opportunities, but you need experience for that. You're going to look for a job, or you're going to look for a significant raise. And so why would someone hire you if in 4 months you're going to look to change? And so that's the reason I posted about it. Now, where this gets sideways is people want to get in the weeds and play got you. So yes, there are MBA programs at top schools, and the consulting firms hire MBAs from top schools. They have established programs where the colleges are holding events, and the big four consulting firms and the McKinseys and everybody else come out there to hire from them. In those situations where you are in those programs, sure, put the MBA on there, right? Put that you're pursuing an MBA at this school. Great. There's established program. There's established law programs where you are pursuing a law degree. And I know someone whose daughter got a $5,000 a month internship. She's between her third and fourth year, and if she completes it, when she graduates, she's got a job offer lined up, right? Very nice job offer, but she's going to a top law school, and they have established programs. It fits there. Where it doesn't fit is if the degree is higher to where you're at or different to where you're at. And so that's why I'll just say, you have to look at your own situation, look at the story, and understand the perspective of the recruiter and the hiring manager, and whether whether that story is going to show that you're going to be a quality hire for them, which means you're going to last a year to 2 years at a minimum. Average tenure is 3 years. That you're going to be a quality hire, and you're not going to look to move in a few months, right? That's the key to all this. And so sometimes also you could be overqualified. And I know people don't like to hear this, But there are recruiters that will not consider you for a role that has a bachelor's degree if you have a PhD or if you have a master's degree. And I've met people at companies that would not consider people for roles that were technical, hands-on, that had bachelor's degrees because their history is that the people with degrees would move on within 6 months. They didn't want to be hands-on, and so they didn't even want to consider those people. And so there is no situation that's going to apply to everyone. What I will say is my advice to anyone here on the platform is that if you disagree with advice given, right, it is totally acceptable to share that you disagree, but I would encourage you just share why you disagree and give examples of how you could do it better, right? I saw a few people that did that really well. We had good conversations. But, I have this tendency where I match energy. And so if you're going to come at me with I disagree, I'm going to match you once with the same energy. And, it is what it is. But that's who I am. Now, let's move on. I had another post this week. It's a tough market out there. It's getting tougher, right? IBM, Cisco, Intel, there's a lot of big companies are laying people off. I read an article that said that Amazon was looking at laying off 40% of their headquarters, up to 40%, because they have a return to work policy, 100% by the beginning of the year. It's a tumultuous time. And what I'll say is that over the last 3 years, we saw a significant, it was a candidate market once COVID kind of cleared up. And what you saw is companies were expanding rapidly. Everything was remote. And you see people have 2 or 3 offers and salaries were going through the roof. And so it was, a candidates market, and companies were hiring more recruiters to be able to sift through and go find the right candidates. And so what you're seeing now, and some people say this started last year, but what I'm really seeing happen now is all these layoffs from big name companies. And these are quality people, high performers that are getting laid off because entire sections are getting axed. I'm seeing a lot of stellar leaders in the veteran space getting let go because companies are axing, DEI specific programs, right? So what I'll say is that you've got to understand the market you're in. And nowadays, I will tell you that it is even more important that you network. It's even more important that you tailor every resume. It's even more important that you study companies and be able to speak to why you want to be a part of there and help to be able to stand out, because the number of applicants for roles, especially in the tech space, is only going to increase now. I think 30,000 were let go last week. You've got to find a way to stand out. It's just going to get harder and harder and harder. And then companies are letting go of a lot of recruiters, a lot of people in talent acquisition. And so recruiters are going to get overburdened. So they're going to be communicating less outside of the ATS. And they're going to be sifting huge talent funnels to get to the 3 to 5 people that are interviewing for jobs. And so I'll tell everyone here, you've got to put extra effort into making yourself stand out, and just leader or listing large numbers, people you led and big dollar figures you were responsible for isn't going to cut it. You've got to speak specific to how you're a best candidate for that job, which means you've got to know the pain points. You've got to know the language. You've got to know the numbers and the way they track it. You've got to know the basic functions of that role so you can share specific times when you've done that in a way that jump off the page and tell the recruiter that you've done it and that you are a high-performing best candidate. The flip side of that, we talk about, and I'm just going to keep it real, we talk about cost centers and we talk about revenue generators, right? And a cost center is a resource at a company that costs money, right? You think about like HR, accounting, marketing, talent acquisition. Most of those roles are not bringing revenue, bringing money into the company. They're not sales related. They're not billable, right? Those are cost centers. And then you've got your billable people that are actually performing jobs that, are either billing in the consulting world or are driving revenue, sales, account management, things like that. As you see these layoffs happen, as you see the economy impacted, as you see these companies shrinking, the first ones that go are the cost centers. Excuse me. Got a little bit of a cold. You see the cost centers go. And then, and so what I tell everybody here is throughout your military career, you've had to keep an I Love Me book. Most of you have. It's time to resurrect that if you're not doing it now. And I'm not saying this because you're going to get let go, but you really got to be able to show how you are providing value that is typically 2 to 3 times your 200 to 300% more than the money they're paying you, because you cost a lot more than what the company pays you. People just think, well, I cost 100, I bring 110. They don't realize that the break-even point for like taxes and everything else is 1.3, 1.4. And when you talk about the wrap rate, which is your burdened rate of overhead, you know, the buildings, the executives, the cost centers, everything else like that, is typically 1.6, 1.65 to 2.0. And so if you're making 100,000, to be really safe, you should be driving over 200,000 worth of business back into the company in some way, shape, or form. If it's not direct money, then it's got to be value, right? So what I'll tell everybody is pay attention to the business and the economics of how your company's doing. You should be reading, shareholder meetings. You should be looking at financials, reporting, all the news of that stuff. You should be looking at the performance of your sections. You should be looking at your individual performance and considering, hey, if I was let go tomorrow, would there be a struggle? Would there be a stress? Would the company go, oh crap, what are we going to do? And if that's not it, volunteer for more work, right? Dig in and find more stuff that you can do to make yourself irreplaceable. And then the last thing I'll say, because some of these high performers would have been irreplaceable, but they axed whole sections. The last thing I'll say is don't stop. You found your job, you found your success, you found your dream job. There's other factors at play. And so what I'll tell everybody is that you should be networking constantly. Always take the call. You know, the worst thing you can, I mean, at the very least, if the job doesn't appeal to you, you can, connect them to somebody that might be interested. But be prepared. And what I'll say is, own your situation. And if you're a high performer and you're providing that kind of value, you're fine. And if you're not fine because there's economic factors, someone else will snap you up in a heartbeat. The last thing about this I'll say is there's somebody that I know found their success. They got let go. They got let go from one of the big companies, in the last week to 2 weeks. And they took a couple days and they posted and they reached out and let me know. And they'd stayed active on LinkedIn. So I knew them. I recognized them. And so I commented, as I do whenever I see, veterans or mil spouses from my network posting that they're looking for a job. Anytime I see that, I comment, hey, I want to boost that to my network of, 373,000 people, because it might, 2 seconds of my time might help them. So I commented on their post, wishing them the best, a little bit more than that, but basically wishing them the best. And then that night I had a message from another connection that's a senior executive at a growing company in their industry. And they asked me if I knew them. And I responded that I did not know them personally, but I really got a good vibe from them. And I thought that it would definitely be worth them having a call. The next day, I get a call from my buddy Scott Stalker, who was the senior enlisted leader for NSA Cyber Command and Space Command. And he was just checking in on me because that's what good leaders do. They check in on their friends and family. And we talked about the environment and the economy and the layoffs. And he mentioned that person's name. And I said, hey, do you know them? And he said, yes, absolutely. I said, are they a stellar performer? He goes, one of the best. Without a doubt, I would hire them in a heartbeat. Like, high performer extraordinaire. They're amazing. And so I said, hey, do you know this other person? And he knew them as well. And I said, why don't you send them a note saying you know this person and that you would hire them in a heartbeat? And I did the same. And so hopefully the individual that's out of work that invested into their community is getting an interview for these roles. And I'd be surprised if they weren't. And so that takes me into my next topic, which is social capital. Apologies for the scratchy throat. So we talk about social capital. A lot of people talk about brand and a lot of people talk about relationships, but I talk about it in terms of social capital, right? You are investing into your network, into your community, much like you invest in a bank account, right? So you start a bank account, you put money in, and over time it gets interest as you keep putting money in. And if you stop putting money in, eventually the bank starts to nickel and dime with fees and everything else to drop it down. That's social capital, right? It's the same. I mean, that's investing in banks and money, but it's the same thing in your networks, right? Every time you post, every time you help someone, every time you give back, every time you do updates, you're investing social capital into your network, and you're just, putting a little bit at a time, You're not asking, you're just putting a little bit at a time. You're helping people, you're connecting dots, or you're telling a recruiter, hey, I'm not interested, but I may know somebody that is. Let me connect you to them. That's all social capital. And you're just basically putting money into your bank account or your investment account. And over time, it continues to invest. And the deal of this is you got to have money in your account to be able to make withdrawals. And so you keep investing over time. When you need something and you reach out, it's not the first time you're asking. They know you. They know you have that social capital, and you're asking for help. They're going to do it, right? Because you can make withdrawals from your account. The beauty of this for the military is, I like to say, it's like you start your bank account with like $2,000. It's like the bank's like, hey, we're going to have to run a promotion. If you start a bank account with us, you start off with $2,000. And so you can make withdrawals without having to invest that much because of the veteran status, reaching out to other veterans, military spouses, people in industry, right? But eventually, if you just ask, you run out of money, and then you lose people aren't going to help you. And so that's why I tell people it's so important for you to invest into your community, to help others, to share advice, to share your thoughts in a way that builds a real connection with people. So keep that in mind. Now, talking about real connections, I posted about having your own personal board of directors. This is really important. I believe that your post-military success is largely going to be impacted by the people and the level that they're at of your own personal board of directors. And what I mean by personal board of directors, I mean a group of people that are sponsors or mentors that are becoming sponsors that are invested in you, right? They believe in you. They think you're a high performer, and they're actually speaking for you when you're not in the room, or taking the call and making introductions when you ask, right? Those are your own personal board of directors. And so what I would say for you is grab out a piece of paper and write down 3 to 5 people that are your personal board of directors, the people you can call, email, text. You'll get a call back in a short period of time. You can ask them anything. They're looking out for you. Now, write their job titles next to it, right? The level that they are at is largely going to impact where you land, right? Like, that's the key of this, right? So you want to aim higher. You want to aim up, because those people are going to have the knowledge, the experience, and the relationships to get you at the right level. And so, and you bring new members in your board of directors as you go. My board of directors now is different, but when I was getting out, I talk about 3 people at my board of directors. One was Jonathan Puskas, Navy captain. He was the head of HR for Adidas North America. And I texted him when I had questions, and he would actually call me back and answer. Another was Dan Savage. He was the head of veteran programs for LinkedIn 3 of them ago. Before Corey and Sarah. And, he really invested a lot of time and effort in me and gave me a lot of perspective that he learned from working in this field, in this industry, made a lot of connections. And the third was Karen Schrum. She's a partner at EY that, helped me figure out where I would fit in consulting, and called to check in on me and advocated with me within the firm, and helped me land that senior manager job in people advisory services at EY. Joseph Quinn, another partner at EY. Mark Anderson, another partner at EY. You see the trend here, the people that invested and really sponsored me in a lot of ways. And so now, some of those people are like advisory councils. Now the board involves a few other, very high level CEOs. that I can reach out and ask to, people with a lot of advice, experience, and influence. And so I just tell people, always look to build the right board of directors. The board of directors is going to help you get where you want to go. So keep that in mind. All right. So I've got about 4 minutes left. So the last couple things I want to talk about are, when I teach my Mastering LinkedIn webinars, I tell everybody to do 3 things. And the next webinar is October 29th from 11 to 1, 11 a.m. Eastern time. That's my next Mastering LinkedIn webinar. But I tell people 3 things that they should all do right off the bat. The first is that they should verify their profile. So if you just, the little check mark that you get on X, it's free on LinkedIn. And it tells people that your profile is backed, that your identity has been verified. And they do it through Clear, which is the same thing they use at airports, so it's fairly safe. And so what I'll tell you is you go to the mobile app, you go to About This profile from your profile page, go to About This profile and verify my profile. And you can either log into Clear, or you can take the pictures, or you can take a picture of your photo ID. It doesn't go to LinkedIn, it goes to Clear. So that's one. The second is turn on your 2-step verification. You're going to build this network, this community. You don't want to let somebody hack it easily. And so you just go to settings and your settings, go to sign in and security, go to 2-step verification and turn it on. And it's not annoying, 2-step verification, but whenever anybody signs on or tries to sign on because they hacked your profile from another device, it pings your phone and says, are you trying to sign on? Right? So it's a quick nope. And you can also check to see where you're signed on from that tab as well. And the third thing is free LinkedIn Premium. A lot of people don't realize that Corey Boatwright, the head of veterans programs for LinkedIn, did a lot of work over this last year or so to get service members, active, guard, and reserve, a free LinkedIn Premium license their entire career. So if you are active, if you are guard, or if you're reserve, you get LinkedIn the whole time you're in service. Here's how it works. You get it. You go to linkedin.com/military and you click on the service member one. It verifies your information through Share ID. It gives you 1 year. When that year expires, if you're still in service at least one more day, you sign up, you get another year, and you do it year after year. When you are out, so when that year's expired and you are no longer in service, you get 1 year as a veteran. LinkedIn.com/military. Same thing. Military spouses get it every PCS, right? If you're a military spouse and you're trying to do it again and it's not working, please look up LinkedIn help ticket and submit a help ticket, and they can work you through that. All right, 1 minute and 30 seconds left. I'm going to save for next week the discussion on interview questions. And what I'm going to talk to you about is when you look at LinkedIn Recruiter, for 95% of the Fortune 500, a lot of recruiters and a lot of staffing companies pay for LinkedIn Recruiter because they can filter all the talent. You can go through the 1 billion plus people on LinkedIn, search for keywords, job titles, military affiliation, veterans, everything else like that, right? So you create your searches based on those keywords, those skills, companies they used to work at, job titles, past and present, whatever you create it. And you get a list of 500, 700, 10,000 results, whatever it is. You can add filters. One of the filters is open to work, right? If they've either turned on the green banner or signaled that they're open to work, recruiters only, they're going to be in that one. And a lot of recruiters will start and click open to work because they know most of those people are saying they're willing to talk. One of the other ones is they follow your company. And so what I like to do is hit open to work and follows your company, because those are people that when you reach out are going to know, they're going to recognize the company name because they followed you, right? And so what I tell everyone when they're setting up the LinkedIn profile and they're engaging, right? When you're applying for jobs, on the jobs tab, look for that job and see what skills that other applicants have. If you have them, or you know them and they're not on your profile, add them to your profile. And the other part of this is if you are interested in a company, you're applying to a company, you like a company, you want to work at a company, follow them. It's a click of a button, right? And when you follow them, you can follow up to 1,000 companies. You'll also get some stuff from the company when they're posting about events or things that you can use in your interviews, right? Or jobs or anything else like that. So while we talk about that, please make sure to follow hiremilitary.us, follow Hire Military on LinkedIn, and you'll see a lot of great opportunities coming your way. And with that, I'm still at the 30-minute mark. Thank you all, and I will see you in 2 weeks. I'm traveling next week. I will not be able to do an office hours. Thank you all, and have a great weekend.